Hi, my name is Shayla, and I did the Communications and Graphic Design program at North Island College in 2024. So I am the owner and founder of Cetadora Graphic Design Studio, and I went fully into it, so full-time into it in September of 2025. And yeah, the fashion stuff that you're talking about, that's my business partner that I contract through Cetadora, and that's where I was invited to New York Fashion Week. So growing up in Ontario, I started with a degree in wildlife biology at Lakehead University. I went to their natural resource management program, and I always knew that I wanted to make a difference in the world. And I graduated during COVID, and I ended up landing an environmental organization job there where I was doing communications and social media management. And I was not qualified for that job at all, but I had that environmental background experience, and I had always been very passionate about social media management and design in general. I've always been an artist, whether it be just illustrating or just loving painting, etc. And I knew that if I wanted to make a change in the world through my natural resource management degree, that pairing it with social media management was one way that I could do it in a powerful way at scale. And after graduating and after working in that in the field in communications and design, I found North Island's program in communications and design, and I loved it because I have ADHD and I'm learning more about my brain, and I realized that having a learning model where I can learn everything at my own pace was just so amazing, and I didn't know that something like that could exist. And when I first entered the program in my first year, I just found it was like night and day compared to studying at university, because university has the model where it's like you do one midterm, one exam, and or one assignment, one midterm, and one final, and that defines your knowledge. And for NIC, I really loved just how hands-on it was. All of the labs were so directly applicable to the field, and as someone who's already had that pre-field experience by chance, I was able to see that. Yeah, so again, my journey was very nonlinear. And I found out and got assessed for ADHD while I was studying at North Island. Like, I did my whole university degree without knowing that I had ADHD officially. Like, I had an idea that I knew that I learned differently, and it took a lot more time to, absorb information than other people did. Or, I felt like I had superpowers in learning and, hyper-focusing in ways, but I didn't really understand myself. And then I came to NIC, and someone told me about a program where, you can get a little bit more support in certain ways. So yeah, I was able to get more time on my exams, and, I didn't need a quiet learning space because I work from home and I learned from home. But yeah, there was a lot of programs and support that I found while I was here, which also really helped me during my journey and made learning really enjoyable. Like, again, it was like night and day from university, because I actually felt so excited to show up to class, and I knew that I was actually learning something that was so directly applicable to what I wanted to do in the world. So yeah. Again, my journey was very nonlinear. I changed my undergrad program 4 different times before I settled on natural resource management, and it was just a fluke that I ended up getting that communications and social media management job before I did North Island College, to see that, yeah, I really love this, but I want more knowledge and information on it. And being in it and learning from amazing teachers like Claire and Megan, and I was just like, okay, like, I'm starting to realize I like typography, and what is typography, and how do I get into that more? And even web design, even though it's a little bit tricky, like, this is really cool, and like, this is cool information that I can use or pair in some kind of way. So while I was here and just like on a journey of self-mastery, that's kind of what it felt like. Yeah, I was able to hone in kind of who I was and what I wanted to do and what my purpose was. And speaking on that too, like, I did find my purpose at NIC because Cetadora, my graphic design studio, that's now my full-time job, was born here in my capstone project. And I was almost thinking a little bit 10 times when I was in that capstone class, because I was like, okay, I know that you can just pick anything to do for your capstone, of course, but as someone, again, who had that blessing of being in the field for a little bit, I was like, okay, I'm going to be strategic about what I do for this, because I can use this, yes, as an assignment, but I can also use it in something I'm going to use in the real world. So that's where I took the opportunity to create Cetadora. And I was on a plane home from Thunder Bay, and I was thinking about the name that I wanted to have for myself, and then it all came about, very synchronistically, if that's the word. Everything from this program I use on a regular basis in the real world. And I feel like I knew that while I was studying too, and that's why I was so motivated to show up every day, because, and again, like, Claire is such a superstar. All these teachers are so incredible and passionate and real about what they do, and I think they're also very heart-centered and not just like here to like, give you information and mark a paper. Like, they care about you. And I knew that when I showed up, I was like, okay, like, this is something that I can, like typography, for example. And I got my job at University of Victoria while I was still finishing up my diploma. I knew that while I was learning these things, that I can master how I create a research report and how I put it all together. And so, again, I think that gave me that extra motivation to show up and really understand what we're doing here and how to be the best artist that I can. And even in classes that maybe were a little bit trickier for me, like web design and like coding was definitely, I would say, the thing I wasn't as strong in, but I knew it was still something, even though it was hard, was something that I needed to know in some realm, even if I didn't master it. But yeah, every course in my program, in the Communications Design program, in my experience, was directly applicable to the field. Yeah, I would say my whole life, like even when I was a little girl, I would always love to draw, and I was always creating in some kind of way. And how I mentioned too when I was in university and how I changed my undergrad 4 times. The first stream that I went into was visual arts. So I did an art degree for 2 years. And I really loved it. And again, I had people telling me with like projecting their own limiting beliefs on me, like, you're not going to get a job. What are you going to do with that, Shayla? Like, I know even my boyfriend at the time was like, Shayla, if you're going to do this, like, you got to be the best in it. Like, it's going to be really hard. And I don't think, he was encouraging at that point, but all of those compounding, again, projected limiting beliefs from the external added up to a point where I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't think I'm the best, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this full time, but I really love it. And, I'm grateful that I did those 2 years because it was so cool at Lakehead University, and, I was around like live model drawings and learning how to, learn about drawing the body, and we even had an assignment where we had to draw like a 6 foot by 6 foot painting of ourselves. And that really challenged me in a great way as an artist to really I don't know if you know, but drawing yourself is one of the most challenging things that you can do, because you're so, we look at ourselves all the time, but you're really finicky. But anyway, again, it's all self-mastery at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm grateful that I had those 2 years of art, even if people told me that I shouldn't have, because I was able to bring those skills forward into this program. And ultimately in the real world. And now I get to draw for fun and for my job, which is the biggest win of all. So again, my journey was not perfect. My journey was not linear. There were so many times that I did not know what I was doing, that I looked at myself or would call my mom and be like, Mom, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, or I don't know if this is gonna work out, or, and also, I think it's, again, the compounding limiting beliefs from the external world of people telling you, you can't, you won't, you shouldn't. Don't you know that that's not going to work out? Or don't you know that you're not going to get a lot of money? Or don't you know you're going to fail, etc. And even though I had people telling me that, and, some of those people were mentors, some of those people were friends or family or teachers. And I'm not saying teachers here. I'm saying teachers like grade 7 teachers, for example. And I won't name him, but that experience where he told me that I couldn't go into the science stream. He said, and I almost listened. And if I listened to my grade 7 teacher who told me that, you can't go into the academic field, my entire life would have been derailed. But he told me that, and I didn't listen, and I did it anyway, and I got that degree anyway, and I went through the entire academic stream anyway, and again, I think it came down to just belief in self, knowledge of self, and some kind of following my intuition very strongly and knowing that I knew that I wanted better for myself, even if I didn't know what the entire outcome was or how it was going to come together in the way that I wanted to. In retrospect, I believed that I could, and I followed that, and I'm grateful I followed it. And now I'm here, in such a blessed setting to be able to share that and hopefully also inspire other people to know that no matter what, even if people tell you that you can't, you can, and you definitely should follow your dreams because, I think a lot of those limiting beliefs that other people project are just their own insecurities at the end of the day, or their own fears. And they don't realize how it could completely, again, derail someone's entire life. So yeah, I did not always know what I wanted or how it was going to work out or that it would work out, but it did. So, gratitude. Yeah. It's never, and this is what I'm saying in my presentation too, there's never a perfect time. I've had so many mentors tell me, Shayla, you can't wait until it's perfect. 60% is good enough. And I'm not saying that, I'm not going to say that for school, shoot for the stars, get your 90s, shoot for 100, of course, in your grades. But, when you're putting things out into the world, or even as an artist, you want to be perfect. We all have a perfectionist. I think as an artist, we all just want to be perfect in a lot of ways. We want to do the best that we can. We want to, obviously, the fear of being perceived is a big one, and a big thing that holds a lot of people back. I've held myself back so much from it. Being perceived is one thing that I'm just getting over now. Doing this interview is exposure therapy for me. And I know that this isn't even going to be perfect, maybe. I don't know. But I am still doing it because I know it's I feel proud and I feel so grateful to have this opportunity. And I think you can say the same thing for, projects and art. And, it's incredible that we get to create. And I believe that we're all creative beings and it's what we're meant to do. So shoot for 60%. Let it be imperfect. People love authenticity and vulnerability too. It's kind of what we were talking about as well. Everything is, and I think the way that the world is going, we need more heart-centeredness. And AI can't do that. Robots can't do that. This is real. This is felt. And you can feel it on an energetic level too. When you're passionate about something, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just show up with your heart and that will magnetize abundance and alignment and success. And that's why I made this hoodie too. Everything is aligning for you. It's a self-affirmation that, no matter a quote that I love, and I know I'm going on a tangent, but everything, we can all remind ourselves of this, and I wake up every day and I tell myself this, everything is always working out for me no matter how it looks in any given point in time. And if we all remember that, even when things look like failure, or things look like rejection, or things aren't working out, or the art isn't perfect, or whatever, it's all aligning us for our greatest good. Because, even if something didn't work out, it's a lesson that's enhancing us, or allowing us to be better, or we're going to learn from it and do better. Even my assignments, or, some of the things that my classes at NIC, and I talk about it in my presentation with Claire at my UI UX final project. I think I completely misread the outline, and I think it was something for a landing page, and I think I just designed an entire website or something like that, completely different. But what I say in the presentation is that, even though it wasn't perfect and I didn't do it correctly, I learned from the critiques, and I learned from that outcome, and I learned how to be better, and also maybe pause myself a little bit more and ground myself. So again, everything is we're all just here to learn in this whole life at NIC, but also on this life journey, And I want to be mindful of I'm more mindful of the words that I use too, because I believe that the words that we use and what we believe for ourselves creates our reality. And I would always say, like, yeah, public speaking was my biggest fear. If anyone thinks I could never do what I'm doing, Shayla, I want you guys to know that I didn't even know that I could do what I'm doing. It's not anything I could have foreseen or planned for myself. Again, my journey was so strange in so many ways, and I had a lot of ways that I went around blocks or barriers, and a lot of synchronicities. And I talk a lot about the belief in self and the knowledge of self and the law of attraction too. And I think, and I know it's getting into a little bit spirituality sense of things, but I truly believe we're all spiritual beings, and it's nothing to do with religion, but it's realizing our power of our mind and a power of self-belief and the power of our own attraction. And I think my belief in self and what kind of world that I wanted to co-create and help build, and getting clear on what that looked like, helped align me with the things that I'm doing now. I didn't beg or chase for a lot of it. Failure, again, I talk about loving failure and loving rejection. Though failing and being rejected led me to where I am, especially with my job at University of Victoria. So like the job that changed everything for my life. I only got that job because I failed. I got that job because I applied for a job that I thought was a dream job, an environmental job in Victoria. And it was very competitive, and I interviewed for it, and they loved my interview, but I didn't get the job. But because they loved my interview so much, they asked if they could pass on my resume to their network. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, like thank you. And I ended up becoming friends with the interviewer, and like everything aligned from there. And when they passed on my resume, that's how University of Victoria found me. And the Polis Project on Ecological Governance found me, most specifically. And that job is something that I don't think you can apply for. Like, Polis is so divine and special and unique, and I feel like, yeah, they have job postings for sure, but the fact that my boss found me there, and they took me under their wing, and everyone on that team is so incredibly intelligent and just mentored me and allowed me, again, to apply everything that I learned from NIC directly into that job, starting as an intern, where I grew into a project coordinator for the Wildfire Resilience Research Group, which later, I was able to help design incredible things with my team that helped influence policy and research for the province. And I don't think that's anything I could have ever planned, or I didn't even know that that existed, or that I would be working around wildfire or watershed governance, and I didn't even know what watershed governance is, like watershed sustainability really was. So getting to, again, that kind of all led me, and it was all something I couldn't have planned for myself. So in conclusion, you can do anything. You have to just believe in yourself and get clear on what you want in the big picture sense. What kind of world do you want to live in? I always talk about thinking about your 10-time self. So who are you in your highest self version? Like, how do you move? How do you speak? Like, what does your world look like? How much money are you making? Like, what does how do you dress? And getting clear on those things. And then you just see how the universe kind of collapses timelines to provide you with how. I'm gonna leave it there. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I'm always thinking and meditating on who I am in my highest version self. So who is Shayla in her highest self timeline? And for me, especially as Cetadora I would say just started fully full-time in September of 2025, so very, very new in my full-time business role. But I would like to be more established with the clients that I have on my rotation, and I hope that I'm working with the same ones in just a higher scale. We're all just doing greater things for the world and communities. I would love to be I'm going to speak this in the present tense because it will. And this is how we, again, manifest the best possible things. So I know that Cetadora's brand is going to be more expanded. I'm going to have more capsules by that time. I just launched my first capsule, so hopefully by then I'll have maybe 10 or more. We'll see. I plan to have my merch being sold locally and hopefully regionally and maybe internationally. And then, yeah, I think I would just like to be, and I've already started this, but being more connected to my community in Victoria, and I already feel like I'm meeting all of the people, all of the change makers, all of the leaders, or, you know, the head of art organizations and the head of the markets and the head of, or these incredible business owners, the local business owners downtown. I'm starting to like learn all their names, and they're starting to meet me, and vice versa. And I really just want to continue strengthening those relationships, because I truly believe, like, yeah, your community is everything. And especially as an artist, I think you can have an infinite amount of clients and, you know, possibilities and opportunities as long as you got your community. Like, you just, and this is what I want to tell all the students today, is just show up in the places that you love. Because when you show up in places that bring you joy and fuel you and fuel your energy, people feel that. And then they're like, oh, what do you do? And from there, it's just like alignment, alignment, alignment. So I want to continue building my community. I want to continue building Cetadora in ways that feel aligned. And yeah, go from there. It's literally, your energy is everything. And like on the back of this hoodie, it says, you are the universe experiencing itself. And I also have a shirt that says, your energy is your currency. And it's true. Because, and I think that's also something that's carried me throughout my life, is my energy. And, you know, when people say, like, I love your energy, that's the biggest compliment I could ever get, truly. But it's true. Like, it doesn't matter about your portfolio or, like, you know, but yeah, your authenticity and your energy will carry you very, very far. Just be yourself. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. It's so true. We need it. Humans crave it, especially right now. And I feel like because so many people, you know, and I'm saying as someone who works online, like, and you know, like, we have to be on this web portal a lot, and it's looking within the screen. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're all doing it for people and for community, right? So yeah, the biggest thing is just like, yeah, know your people, show them places that you love and that fuel you, and you will be a magnet for all the things that you desire. Like, it's just, I feel like that's the formula. If you want to follow along on my journey, you can find me on Instagram at Cetadora, Cetadora, and check out my website at cetadora.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under Shayla Auld. And yeah, happy to connect or talk or share ideas, or if any of this resonates, or if you have any thoughts or would love to chat, I'm here. So just reach out.